Hi there, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Catherine, up here in Canada. I live in a little town just east of Toronto on the north shore of Lake Ontario. And I make journals out of old books, and this book is old. And this is going to be Mrs. Cratchit's prayer journal. So I've just figured out over the years that my favorite Christmas books to make usually have something to do with a Christmas carol, and usually my heart goes out to the Cratchits, as my family would have been like the Cratchits, my dad's side of the family. And in fact, my grand's side of the family lived only a few houses away from the last home that Charles Dickens' father and mother and younger siblings lived in before they went into the workhouse. They literally were about 8 houses away from each other, which just gives me a thrill. Not that they were all so poverty-stricken. My family was fortunate enough to make it over here to Canada eventually. And actually, Charles Dickens' father came into an inheritance and was able to pay his debt and get his family out of the workhouse, which is an amazing thing to me. That, first of all, there in Canada, at least, there is no debtor's prison. If you owe money, you owe money. And it can go on your credit, and they can put liens on things that they can put liens on, but you won't go to prison just for owing money. And back then, not only did you go into the workhouse if you owed money, but your whole family went with you. Oh my goodness. Anyhow, as ever, off topic, but my heart is with the Cratchits at this time of year. And so I have been doing a bit more work in figuring out and doing a lot of YouTube watching. Thank goodness for junk journal creators who make videos. Thank you all for what you teach me. I appreciate it. And I'm going to be doing my own little play on how I want to approach this. This cover is very different in that it's, thank goodness, it's really, really a sturdy book. I'm not sure I could break it in half even if I wanted to, but it is paper. It was definitely well made. I did my best to clean it. Where's the dirt that came off it? Look at all the dirt that came off of it. I was a little nervous at first, but true to its word, it's a tough old girl. So thank goodness none of the, I was worried about the crackling that's on it. I don't know if you can see the paint that they've painted it with is crackled, which is just magnificent. If I could have put in an order, send me an old cover and put crackles on it, I would have. My next thing that I need to work on together, so as we work on Mrs. Cratchit's prayer journal, it eventually ended up in the hands of Mrs. William Carr over in Cookstown, Ontario. So I like to wonder whether maybe Mrs. William Carr was Mrs. Cratchit's granddaughter who eventually made it to Canada, the way my ancestors did. On my dad's side of the family. My dad's side is English. And so his mom and his dad, although they never knew each other in London, came from actually very close neighborhoods. in London, England, which is how they found each other when they moved to Toronto, because, as is very typical, immigrants tended to stay close together. They ate similar food, they attended similar churches, they spoke in a similar way. For example, my grandparents had such a thick Cockney accent. I remember as a child sometimes having a very difficult time understanding them. If you've watched the movie My Fair Lady, Eliza Doolittle's accent, that was my grandparents. So they came right out of that area of London. You were considered to be Cockney if you lived within the sound of the Bull's bells, and that was my grandparents. So, which is why I love now watching the movie My Fair Lady, because I love listening to her when she had her Cockney accent. It reminds me of my gran. Oh my goodness, she loved singing that song. Wouldn't it be lovely? And she certainly didn't have to put on the accent. Gran could just belt it out in the way that it was meant to be sung. Anyhow, so who knows if maybe Mrs. Carr inherited her mother's or her grandmother's transformed book, and it came with her over to Canada, and perhaps, like many, didn't have a daughter who treasured it, or didn't have any children who survived, and somehow or other it ended up in a thrift store in my hands for good care. So what I'm going to do now, again, this book just puzzles me, the little things that are underneath. Like I said, you can see here there's thread that's been tied in a knot, and it's underneath where the paint was. And here on this is the back cover. Here on the front cover, you can see what looks like almost staples, and you can see a line there, and I saw another staple, looked like a staple somewhere else up here. There's a few little areas where some of the crackling is chipping off, and I'm okay with that. It was what's meant to be is meant to be. However, my sweet little thrift store didn't, whoever was putting together this to put it out onto the shelf didn't get the memo about please don't put the price tags onto old books. So since it held up so well with the wet wipe, with first I just used water, it seemed to be okay, so then I used the wet wipe, and it didn't mind the wet wipe either. So obviously this is tough paint, and I bet it was oil-based. So let's cross our fingers. We're going to hold our breath. I need you with me. I like to do terrifying things together. And we're going to try some Goo Gone to see if we can get a bit of this off. And if not, we're going to do a wonderful little thing that my friend Anna over and Made by Grenath does so well, and put some little stickers or something here, because I can see, can you see the square where the price tag came off? The glue is still there and it still feels a bit tacky. So I save my wet wipes and that have been used. I don't do it on purpose. I leave them out, they dry out, but I will still use them again dry. So I'm going to put a little Goo Gone onto it, and let's see. Doesn't seem to be coming off. Let's see if we can get some of that off. A lot of the dirt's coming off, so that's all right. Oh my goodness, it was so filthy. Especially the front cover. There was a chunk of something there. I always antique lunch in these books. And if I were making this book for myself, I've got to be honest with you, I'd be tempted to leave it there. I'm a weirdo, I know, but it warms my heart. Alrighty. Again, another weirdo thing. I'm one of those weird people. I like the smell of Goo Gone. Not as much as my gilding wax. That stuff, make me a stick of deodorant out of that and I'd be a happy girl. Alright, so let's get this off of me. And this one is just a regular wet wipe. And we'll see if that did the trick. I don't want to add too much water onto that. I'm trying to get a paper towel. Oh, I went and got groceries this morning. Oh my goodness, I feel like an old woman. I will be so glad when this medication kicks in. Apparently it's slow acting. For those who are unaware, I was recently diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called primary biliary cholangitis, which is a liver disease. My body has decided it doesn't like my liver and thought it would be good fun to try and destroy it. Anyhow, there is a medication for it. Thank goodness I'm old. Who would have thought I'd say that? But older women tend to do well with it. It's a woman's disease for the most part. And but the medication takes quite a while to kick in. And I'm just coming up on my 2-month mark. And they say 3 months, most likely 6 months, I'll start seeing some good things from this medication. And I'm looking forward to it because, boy, I tell you, my husband offered to go get groceries and he's really good like that. But, yeah, I think it did it. Which side? Yeah, by George, I think we've got it. Look at that. I don't see it. I think we did it. Yes. Anyhow, my goodness, that grocery trip tuckered me out like an old lady, and I'm not that old. I don't think so. I got so many things going through my head that I want to do with Mrs. Cratchit's book. But the first thing we're going to start with is, I've watched several different people's versions of doing a soft spine. And I don't have it in my heart to do it completely soft, to do a completely fabric spine. I do want a bit of firmness to it. But I won't be doing a hidden hollow back spine. So I will be putting in just one layer of my favorite file folder cardstock. And I'm going to be gluing it on just to some, I think this is muslin. and I'll put another layer on top, and I think I am going to approach it, the lower layer, as almost making a oh gosh, I'm having a brain cramp. You know when you make like a whole roll full of lace snippets and you just cut off what you need? I'm almost going to do it like a strip of that. But then the last layer of lace I will actually do on the outside. So there will be layers of pieces of lace, because I don't think Mrs. Cratchit would have had a piece of lace big enough. I think she would have had bits and pieces all put together, and she would have just kept gluing it or sewing it or stitching it on. So that's what I think. So I'm going to, for the most part, get it ready and layer on some lace, and then layer on lace afterwards. So let's get started, and we'll get going to where we can get going. We're already at 16 minutes. So I am just shocked at the prices of groceries right now. And when I think back, talk about Mrs. Cratchit, when I think back about when I was trying to stretch $1 to feed 5 children, especially when I was a single mother with 3 jobs at one point, trying to feed them all. I had 3 part-time jobs. I just can't imagine. My heart goes out to the families right now that are trying to make ends meet with groceries. It's and they say there's really no reason for it right now, except gouging by these large companies that can do it. So I'm very similar. One of you wrote in your comments, and thank you. I love reading your comments. Everyone who puts a little "hi, how are you" down below. How working in retail really, in a way, spoiled Christmas for you. I must agree with you. My joy in Christmas is mostly comes from getting together. It comes from the music that I love, playing games with my family. We were big game players, sitting around the table and playing games, even as a child, and even for my children. We spent Christmas Eve playing games with my one daughter usually on the piano, and all of us singing along while we were playing. And food, special food, especially food that we wouldn't necessarily have at other times of the year. But I've never been one, even the years that we had the funds to do it, I just could not bring myself to be like the families that just spend thousands on Christmas. We had friends that their children would wake up and Santa brought the child like a color television for his bedroom. I don't understand that. I'm glad Santa was that generous with that child, I suppose, but I don't understand why the parents couldn't give the child a color television. I let Santa give something, a sweet little toy. Put some candies in the stocking. Keep that part of it simple. But that's just me. I don't get it. So I enjoy the simple parts of Christmas, but I really do enjoy it. And I as well, I enjoy it sooner, because by the time, sorry, like I said in my previous video, by the time Boxing Day comes along, I've had enough. I want my tree down. I want it down. I want it out. I want to start the new year with a fresh, tidy house. And I used to, boy oh boy, the house would get, well, my husband used to call me Martha Stewart. The decorating that I do in the house, and even that has really, really simplified. We've got a tiny little tree that I just love. It's just a little tree, and it goes in the corner. I have my collection of Belsnickel Santas that I love to put out, and that's usually about it. I think I might go give this a press and give the other one a press too. So hold on, I'm going to pause. I'm going to pause and press. There we go. All right, so you know what, Nancy and I agree on, well, a lot of things. Maybe that's why we're such good friends, but one of the things we really, really agree on is take a second and press your fabric. It doesn't even have to be, you know, don't worry that it's not a tuxedo shirt perfect, but just take a minute, press your fabric. Even if you thrift store and find yourself a really good quality hair straightener, those work too. Just run it through a hair straightener. I like my regular iron better than, I've tried my hair straightener. I've got a few left over from my salon days. I just find that my fabric iron gets hotter than my hair straightener. Anyhow, take a second. It not only will it make the finished product look better, it actually makes your fabric easier to work with, especially if you put a little bit of spray starch in it. It's still flexible, but it gives just a little bit of firmness to your fabric, and you'll be glad you did it. If there's anything that any advice that I could give you, that I'm sure Nancy's at home going, yes, yes, yes. It is, take that extra minute. Oh, come on, you. Take that extra second and iron your fabric. Your finished journal will be that much nicer. Some things, yes, you want them wrinkly. I agree with that. For the most part, I like my sari silk quite wrinkly, but even that needs to be pressed a little bit if you want it to be wide. You do have to press it a little bit. There's a few things. Seam binding, tea-dyed seam binding. I like that really wrinkly. But again, there's a reason for that. I like it that way. But for this, to do this spine, I want my job, especially my first time, I want to make my job as easy as possible. So I feel like if I do that, then first of all, this fabric is the color I want, because I'm going to be laying down some extra laces, and then I eventually will be laying down a final layer of lace that will at least make the front look really pretty. And there we go. Now, before I finish up today, I wanted to show you something I found at my Dollarama, and I'm so excited. And you know me, I love a bullet journal, much as I also love junk journals. I love a bullet journal. I've tried using a junk journal, even as a bullet journal, and it's too conflicting for me. My bullet journal works like my appointment book and a reminder book, whereas the junk journal tends to be memories, dreams, feelings, you know, how I'm doing, or that sort of thing. That it's artsy, it's not businessy. Anyhow, I bought two. I liked it so much I thought, what if they don't have them next year? I got these at Dollarama. $5. That's still way less than, I think my last bullet journal from Amazon was probably $25, I think. I know they're less at Michael's, but I don't like those ones as well. This book is magnificent because it has a fully functional calendar right up here. So if you're like me, sometimes I will just completely miss a few days, especially if I've had some poor health. Like if I'd had 3 days in a row of really poor health, I'll just have 3 empty days. Well, that way I can say it was, say, February 5th, and then I didn't want to do again until February 8th. I can then circle the 8th and just keep going underneath. And just, you know, if I take a month off, then I just start up where I left off. I don't have to necessarily do the whole book. I've got the calendar up there, and I can just circle the month and the day. And if I need to put a few days into one page, which I suspect will happen, let me bring that up so you can see. I just think it's brilliant. And if it takes longer than a year to fill it, which most likely for me it will, like, oh my goodness. And it's so nicely made. And it's got ribbon bookmark, and it's got the elastic to keep it closed. And then if you do that with your elastic, you can put your pen in there. So there you go. So if you live anywhere near a Dollarama, or maybe you've got dollar stores that sell the Studio brand of paper products, maybe you'll have these there, and maybe that's the kind of journal that would appeal to you. Oh, I went and crinkled my, that'll be okay. Maybe that's the kind of journal that will appeal to you. So now I've just got to decide which one do I start in January. I think the green one. I'm very excited. So I thought I'd share that with you. Thought you'd enjoy that for $5. I don't know how they make it for $5. I honestly don't. The paper is lovely. It's thick. I wish it was dotted. That would make it the best. I prefer bullet dots to lines. I will make do. I just think that right there is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And if I wanted to, I still could turn this into my week at a glance and still just circle month and day. Love it. All right, I'm going to get going. I didn't get much done except Googling the cover for Mrs. Cratchit's prayer journal and getting this started. So next time we get together, hopefully you'll see a nice lacy spine on the cover, and I'll just talk you through how I did it. And then maybe we'll do it together, because I plan on doing a soft spine for the Fairy Queen book that I'm going to do. So that'll probably be in January. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. And certainly it's Monday, so I'm not sure when I'll be back on. Could be tomorrow, it could be Thursday, I'm not sure. If it's Thursday, have a great rest of your week, and we'll get together then. Take care and stay safe and stay healthy. Bye. Oh, and say hi down below.